I think B2C is so difficult now to get because there's so much product on the market. These new products coming in because AI is developing so fast and everyone's just trying to solve a problem. Revolut started probably like 2-3 years ago, becoming trendy here in Ireland and the UK. But now there's so many Revoluts out there. And I think Revolut has been a very good product on consistently making sure the customer is excited, invested, but you can do everything there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of controversial when someone goes, well, you got to go after, you know, riches are in the niches and all that kind of stuff. But Revolut went super broad, super big. They've been brewing this for, you know, a number of years, trying to bring it to market and raise $1 billion+ at this point. So, like last week, we forgot to introduce ourselves. You know,
We're learning.
Yeah, we're learning.
Slowly,
Hopefully, episode 5 we actually introduce ourselves. I suppose my name is Erik. I'm 24 years old. I'm involved in the digital transformation space. I'm a consultant for a group of companies, and we're dabbling in the car parking business and the real estate business. And I've been doing this for the last 6.5 years now.
Yeah, my name is Daragh. I co-founded Graphic Digital with Erik, and Erik, I exited this year. Erik bought
left
me out. Yeah, he bought me out earlier on this year. I'm currently building Magnate, which is going to transform agency messaging and task management. And like he said, we're involved with Sky Park together, where we're managing commercial parking in Galway City, and hopefully further afield.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Anyways, I think it was a fun episode. We got into some topics.
Yeah, key takeaways from this week, and yeah, I think good value in this one.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this anyway. So here, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If so, give it a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, and enjoy the episode.
Yeah, see you next week.
Welcome back to another episode of
Build from Scratch, episode 4.
Yeah, with Mr. Erik Jentetics
and Daragh Jordan.
So, how's your week been, Erik?
My week's actually been pretty good. Started off the week by so last weekend actually had a Christmas party with Thomas Arnold and Dave McGowan and some of the guys there. They were like a group of videographers, freelancers, business owners and everything. And it was we went from having some steaks, went to nightclub. It was good fun, you know. We got out of town, and then we just jumped straight into a long good week. But we're doing some training with we won a new contract this week, so we're doing some training there for the staff on that, and just kind of you know, it's pre-Christmas vibes, just trying to wrap it all up strong. What about you? How's your week?
Well, we're still kind of ramping up, obviously. So I've spent most of my week on calls with users or potential like waitlist building. So got some good big agencies signed on. Got their all project managers, team leads, and stuff.
And we're gonna see a new feature shipped on Monday or something.
Yeah. Well, the team are in here currently. So by the time this is released, it's gonna be all rocking and rolling. So keep an eye on the magnet.
It's gonna be my Christmas gift. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be well before Christmas. It's gonna be your pre-Christmas gift.
Good. What are you getting me for Christmas? Is
TBD.
this the wrong?
I haven't thought about it.
Have you? What do you mean you haven't thought about it?
Have you thought about it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I usually look like a bad friend there.
Or maybe I'm just very good at pretending.
Yeah. you know, one time some guy turned to me. He's like, "What do you do for work?" And sometimes I just go, "I'm a sales manager." And he goes, the waiter turns to my girlfriend and goes, "Never trust a man in sales."
Just there, like straight up.
We're like a pretty nice restaurant. I was like, "No tip for you, buddy."
Never trust a sales manager. A good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Never trust anyone in sales.
Understandable in one way.
Some capacity. Yeah. But anyways, I don't. Well, I do some sales, but my whole job is not sales.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll jump into our points. Anyways, so first one for me is focus on satisfying your customer and not building a product for investors. And I think this is a huge topic. As I kind of got into the tech space and in the app building space, I think you hear more and more about people. I hear more frequently people talk about their investor conversations than user and potential user conversations, which I think is really interesting. Because I think, and I definitely have been guilty of this, is you're continuously focused on, okay, I need to raise money to get to that next stage, to get there. And I actually think that's completely backwards. It's completely the wrong thing to focus on.
But the puzzle is so different as well, and the landscape is shifting at the moment. Like you've probably seen the news, even the NDRC is going to be closing, I think November 2025, so kind of 12 months from now. But the whole kind of tech space, I think, with new products coming to the market, it's all how fast can you get it to the market, and a lot of speed is associated with money. So I think that's why a lot of founders are really looking to fundraise and raise capital, but they actually haven't got their proposition right, or the product market fit, or what does my customer want, what is that itch that you're going to be scratching. So obviously you're going through this process now for the last since June or so 6+ months, on going through refining on what is the product that I'm going to be putting to the market. So it's a different journey, whereas I agree with you. I would have always thought as well, you kind of need an idea, you need money, and then you need to kind of build the idea, but you kind of nearly are. Do you ever see the thing where there's this guy building the train track while there's the train coming in, and it just cannot be any more true, I suppose, of that's what going into getting a product in or fundraising, that's what it's like,
Yeah, so and just one thing that kept cropping up in my conversations with fellow kind of startup founders, because I'm in the NDRT pre-accelerator and hopefully be anticipating applying for the NDRT accelerator, which I think their last year is a really good move. They're actually moved it from 2 inputs in the year to people applying monthly, because I think that's more representative of where tech companies are moving. I think the idea of having like one entry every 4 to 6 months is not there.
Tech is way too fast. It's gotten way too fast.
Especially with AI and stuff. So I suppose, and that was just something I was reminded of that, when build a tech product, it's almost a sinister reminder to myself more than anything else, is that really, and that's why I'm doing tons and tons and tons of company onboarding, talking to agency owners, talking to project managers to really understand. And I'm excited as a result of this new feature is to see their user feedback from a data perspective on the back end, but also then user meetings and figuring that out, because it's really interesting. Because with our product with Magnate, we'll probably go both routes truthfully, but we can have a B2C play or a B2B play or both. And in the Irish investor landscape, B2C does not get any money. It's too risky.
We actually had a discussion on that earlier this week, where it's like, firstly the marketing element on getting your product to market, and because you don't got billboard budget. So it's like, how do I get that product recognition? How do I get it all out there? And like, obviously when you go into business, you could get 10 customers with the one sale, because you're going to be per seat based probably, right? So that's just deep. But what I'm just thinking about when you were kind of talking about that is I think B2C is so difficult now to get, because there's so much products on the market. Like, it's a very tight market on it, and these new products coming in, because AI is developing so fast and everyone's just trying to solve a problem. Revolut started probably like 2-3 years ago, becoming trendy here in Ireland and the UK. It's probably like a COVID play, but now there's so many Revoluts out there. So and I think Revolut has been a very good product on consistently making sure the customer is excited, invested, and is very much there on, from playing little micro games to doing all that, and they're collecting feedback the whole time. I don't know, like, I think you've actually probably introduced me to Revolut a couple of years ago, but you can do everything there. And it's kind of controversial when someone goes, well, you got to go after, riches are in the niches and all that kind of stuff. And Revolut went super broad, super big, but they've been brewing this for a number of years, trying to bring it to market and raise probably $1 billion+ at this point.
Yeah, really interesting as well. I saw their chief commercial officer or chief sales officer or something, I think chief commercial officer, talking on a podcast, and he was saying, this whole idea of globalization where you need to change your language for your marketing and sales depending on what market you're in. He said that's BS. Do not need to do that. He said they use the exact same ads in every country except like Japan. He was like, you didn't need to change their culture.
Just like Just Eat is like different in Australia, isn't it? Yeah.
So they were saying that the ads copy ads everything from Norway to Sweden to, let's say, like somewhere like Hungary to Ireland, all the exact same. Do not, because the general rule of thumb would be study the culture of the market, study what people like, then customize it based on that. But they said, for the most part, do not need to do that, which I thought was really interesting. But definitely with Magnate, we'd like to be taking a step, like where Revolut took the step with banking. I'd love to be the step for messaging and task management, is to be that step of it is revolutionization. It's just so much better than what's currently there, because if you look at your inbox now and 15, 20 years ago, it's the exact same. There's no evolution really. So I'm looking forward to kind of really launching public now Q1 next year. and going live to the world.
I think the best thing at that process is, you know, when you're like talking to someone and they get the vision, or they're like, yes, I got this problem, Daragh, like, come on, help me, like, or, you know, and like that feedback, I think, is probably the fuel right now for any entrepreneur to kind of go out there, for, especially now in your stage of just constantly taking that like excitement from customers, that investment from customers. And obviously, like, look, percentage will drop off, and they could have been sometimes just like kind of giving you a little bit of positive affirmation, but it doesn't matter, it's all a volume game. You know, so like, you probably, if you speak to 100 agency owners, at least you get 10, 15 agency owners ready to sign up for this, for example, you know. So it just really depends, but I think that's probably the best part of what you're doing now, is to get those little win momentums of like these, come on, you know, motivate the team and push on.
Well, like the best one I've heard recently, and I was only telling Jaco, one of our team members there, about this today, is with the new feature that we're building in and we're going to be launching with next week in the trial stage. I've heard the term game changer twice from 2 different agency owners.
Wow.
Which it was definitely like.
Did it light you up? Yes, finally, I was waiting for this moment. Yeah.
Big time. So, but again, I think the main focus of all this is like 110% focus on what your customers love and not what the investors want. Because if you can show customer attraction, because traction's a big word, milestones of traction, I think that if you relentlessly focus on what your customers love and solving the real pain points, money and investment will follow. And again, like I said, I'm not preaching that, I'm talking to myself as well in this, because I'll be raising early next year.
No, totally get it. But I think there's countless of examples of where, like, this is what a CEO's role is to steer the ship, right? Investors are fueling that ship, you know, making it happen. But there's countless of examples we've even witnessed where the CEO goes against the board, the investors' advice, and really believes in that entrepreneurial gut of like, this is the direction I want to take, this is, you know, where I want to bring this product. And at the end of the day, the investor kind of buys into the entrepreneur, aka the CEO or the co-founders or the founders, you know, it doesn't matter structurally, but like, that's whenever that kind of trend usually gets beaten of like, I'm listening to the investors, because like, it's like listening to an accountant when you're running your business. Accountants, if you listen to your accountant running your business, you'll probably go broke very, very fast. So you got to listen to yourself, and you got to have little bits of feedback loops where you're going to certain places for certain parts of feedback, you know, or certain importance of simple important pieces of feedback coming back to you, because your job is to make the decision based on what you think is the best for the company. You know, so at the end of the day, if you decide to run the company into the ground, that's totally your fault. The investors took the risk on giving you their money. But if you skyrocket it, you'll get a big thank you at the end of the day and some dinner and champagne, right?
Totally.
So it is a very popular thing, you know, to kind of do.
Yeah. No, and absolutely, and I think that's a really interesting one, because I suppose when you get them off the ground and someone's looking to quit their job, or they're looking to jump into a venture, money obviously the thing that makes it going, and then tech, it's usually a long turnaround from the minute you make a decision to getting that. So obviously, I just think being relentlessly customer focused is a big one, and I think this, moving on to my next point, which blends in very nicely, is making a list of the most impactful items and sticking to it ruthlessly. And I think as a founder, CEO, I think any sort of like management, I think it's really important that you're constantly focusing on tasks that move the dial, that are constantly pushing stuff forward. And I think
that's your job. Keep building, keep pushing.
Totally. And I think it's really interesting, because now going from Grafton was a rocket ship to going from zero again, like starting a business, like when you're starting a business, there's so much on your plate, there's so much to do, and I can understand why people get so overwhelmed, and especially if you have no business experience. Like obviously we've been in business for like 6 years, I'm starting again, I have a fairly decent feeling on it, but I've been talking to some other founders that are in the industry accelerator, and they're overwhelmed. They're like, there's so much information on terms.
But they're not delegating. Like, I think delegation is such a fine skill. You got to learn the hard way, probably, and keep developing it, and trust your team. Like, the reason you hire a team is because you want to share. You believe in their expertise. You believe that they believe in your vision. So it's like, why not like go for it and delegate? You know, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I think there's this ultimate fear in founders of quality control, that only I've got the knowledge, the quality, the experience to make this happen, and then ultimately then the team feels like they're not making an impact towards where you want to do, because you're like bogged down with all these tasks, and then instead of focusing on what's important, you're focusing on what you think is important, which is two different things, right? So again, I agree with you. I'm actually very bad for this, to fall in with kind of quality control, and I usually jump straight in head first, and I like to resolve a problem, roll up my sleeves. That's the type of founder I am.
Yeah.
But each of their own, right? Like, I think you were always way more ready to delegate and ready to trust in other people. I was more like, let me just take my time, let me just figure it out before, just to make sure, because I wanted to make sure the customer doesn't feel any kind of hiccups, because you're going into your first sale or something, you're not like coordinated, or there's no dynamic or anything, there's no script you're following here. It's like all just whatever you're kind of feeling. But I agree with that point. I'm prisoner of that on a lot of senses of, I need to let go a little bit, and I need to focus on what moves the dial each week. It's very difficult to live by that, and I'd say most people we would ask would also agree that it's a lot of people would say out of pride that they don't work in the business anymore, and they're just like working on the vision and the mission and all that. But in reality, you gotta actually work in the business quite a while until you can kind of retire.
Yeah, no, totally. I completely agree. And again, it'd be completely fictional, especially at my stage, to be able to delegate everything. It's just not realistic to where we're at. And again, more than happy, because I suppose when you're building a new company, building up the structures, building up the quality assurance, building up the SOPs, like, I feel like as a founder you should touch every part of your business and really understand
But I think you'll sell it with more confidence, because you know that you've looked after it, as you're kind of taking ownership of that, even if you're like, I don't know if this team member is, pulling their weight this month, or, so it's like you're kind of always, like, I like to kind of have an understanding and an input from each department every week, month, or whatever, of like, just to make sure we haven't missed the rhythm here, and we're still on focus. And the minute I feel like I'm not in touch with my business, that's actually like my laziness or my not wanting to be included in certain conversations. And it's actually sometimes very good to take a step back, but it's nicer then to take a step in and push it forward again. So it's like, how do you kind of keep that rhythm is kind of up to you to kind of find, and I suppose implement.
Well, I think I have a platform here to help you manage that.
That's what I've been waiting for, right?
So,
hopefully you're not just a salesman on this, right? Can't trust salespeople. Yeah.
2 weeks.
We've all been there. Don't worry.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one that was really interesting on this one is, I think when you and I started, obviously, because we were so young, we didn't have very many skills. But the one thing, I suppose, for this venture with Aaron, my current co-founder, is that we have very different skill sets. Aaron's background, machine learning engineer, and worked in AI projects, masters in AI. I think having a co-founder with complementary skill sets is really, really powerful, because it allows a better delegation of work between co-founders and then management, where I think you and I had a lot of like overlapping skill sets.
We were just like jump straight in head first, whoever can solve it, figure it out, watch YouTube, do whatever, it's just like get it done.
Whoever's there in the moment.
Whoever's fastest to be there. And we had a good trust bond between us that like, even if like you knew I wasn't able to do something, you kind of knew that I'll figure it out kind of thing. So that was positive to be there. But yeah, I think it's like I see even some group chats and stuff we're both in of like looking for a co-founder in X, Y, and Z, and it's like, do you need like an app like a Tinder for co-founders and founders of like, this is the skills I got, I'm like more accountancy based or whatever. But anyways, like I think that it's very difficult to find that perfect match. Nothing is a perfect match. It's like you got to make it a perfect match. As long as they believe in the vision and they really want to try and they're willing to learn, I think that's a positive start on that. But like, there's also the big thing about getting a co-founder as well is like, there's the whole kind of uncomfortable conversation sometimes of equity, or like, what's your part in this, what's my part in this, and there's the whole thing of like, why don't we just focus on making every percent so valuable it doesn't necessarily matter, because we've all put in so much work on the table, do you know what I mean? So it's like and especially in Ireland, I think there's this sense of ownership, and like Irish people love owning everything they have. They don't like loans as much, or they don't like certain things as much. Whereas like other like Americans are like less caring about the small talk stuff. They're more like, okay, I don't care how much I'm taking of equity, but like how much cash I'm going to be taking out of this business. So it's different kind of vibe on that, and they're very transactional. Okay. Whereas in Ireland, it's way more emotional. So it's way more emotional investment.
But yeah, so I definitely think on the impact side of, if you can have a co-founder, from my perspective anyways, that has very differing skill sets to you, it definitely allows you to have a stronger impact, and it also means that you're not being stretched to try and do everything. And I suppose I'll speak to being in a tech business. Like, Aaron handles the tech and I handle every other element, and I love that because he loves doing what he does not want to do my tasks. And I want to do my tasks. He does. I don't want
I used to have that comfort until
but I feel like we're a lot more overlapping. We're like Aaron and I are very differing in skill sets. The other piece as well is, and it's been a big one with Magnate, is even we haven't raised yet, but you'd be so surprised when you reach out and ask people for help and ask people to jump in and help, whether it be on a marketing side, whether it be on a development side, because I think people are concerned to open up and go, hey, would you mind helping? Or hey, would you give me your 2 cents? Or hey, could you give me 2 hours and help? And like, you'd be so amazed if you reach out to people and you go, hey, do you want to come in and help on this? Or do you want to like give some time to it? Because it's not necessarily always about the money. It's sometimes people are trying to build experience in the CV. Some people are looking for a challenge. They're saying, my job's too easy right now.
But I think that, especially that we're younger, it's way easier for us to go and ask other people for help. But I think if you're like a real kind of seasoned entrepreneur, it's going to be so okay for you to like link back in a DM on LinkedIn, or give something back to that person trying to grow themselves in their business or try and find new contacts. I think there's you got to build bridge and trust all the time. Your contact books are not going to get just open, but especially now that you're going to fundraising and doing everything like that, it's like you kind of have to have a feeling of, I don't care if I get rejected. It's just I'm gonna have to keep going until I find someone that does believe in my vision and our team and everything that we've been doing so far.
Totally. So like, I suppose just like circling all this back is like, obviously the point I started was most impactful items and sticking to it. But I think what makes it the easier to do that is having a really good co-founder and really being able to delegate and bring other team members in with different skill sets. And then I suppose writing out your entire to-do list, which you can do on a platform coming live very soon, and core ranking it based on impact. And don't be afraid to bounce it around and look at impact, and then stick to it ruthlessly. And I think a lot of people, we get caught in the fires. I think a lot of founders love to be firefighters. They love to jump in, they love the heat and figure it out and problem solve. And I love that stuff too. Trust me, I love it. Because the adrenaline rush off it is great. But I think really having that of like, in a week, what stuff am I going to do to move the dial in the marketing, in the sales, in building the wait list, on the tech front. And if you can look back in your week and just have moved the dial in a few different capacities, that should be a win. And I think I'm really recently been trying to really focus on that, because it's very easy to get caught in the firefighting all the time. You look back and go, other than just keep things...
What did I do this week? And like, you suddenly have so much to ask for a Saturday, and that's... Actually, someone asked me, was like, what does admin mean? When when you're doing something on a Saturday or a Sunday, it's stuff I didn't do over the week, that I didn't feel like it's a priority, or I got caught up doing silly stuff, so it just really depends on,
Totally. So do you want to circle it around that? There might be points.
Yeah, no, there were good learnings, to be fair, and 2 good points. One of the points I wanted to bring up on today's conversation is talking about kind of the whole time concept of work. Like, I think it's very the reason I want to talk about it is because, like, as you evolve and as you get into I suppose a business and a proper organization, and kind of even at the start, like the whole work expectation of time input and work output, there's this hustle culture that I think we've both been in very heavily, and everyone then tries to then get out of it and kind of make themselves a work-life balance, and kind of trying to hack that. Now, I haven't actually hacked it myself, nor do I know anybody that's really hacked it. I think that it takes quite a bit of time, to build up what you like. But we talked about this a lot over the last few weeks, even of like I came to you and I said, Daragh, like I keep like just like long work weeks, like I'm just spending 10, 12, 13 hours every day, kind of, I wouldn't say working, but just you're in work mode all the time, or you're speaking, or you're traveling, you're kind of doing something that's work, right? But don't imagine work to be on a computer, like, doing all that kind of, this doesn't really happen. That's just, but But and then just talking about that kind of time management and everything like that, right? So like, how do you find sectioning your time or prioritizing your time or developing your time, I suppose, over time, over the last while? How have you found that recently, even with Magnate? Because like, demands are different now for you, for example. They're maybe not as urgent. You could probably throw something a little bit longer and contribute bits each time, but like, that's something like that I've been like this week pretty much like really feeling is like, oh my god, like I've been doing so much work, and I've been like locked up quite a bit on my calendar and everything for the last while. And obviously, hopefully Magnate will help me, unlock potential here in my work tasks. But like, that's
like, I suppose like the one I really found with myself where like I'm really satisfied with myself is that like I want to every day like show up to work in whatever capacity, whether you're like no sleep like 2 out of 10 or you're like 10 out of 10 you're on fire, and just show up. Like
those Sundays to a Mondays, just having a few drinks on a Sunday and showing up on a Monday strong,
occasionally. Like I like to work out 4 or 5 times a week. I feel good when I tick that box. I like to spend time, preferably a few times a week, people, my loved ones, friends and family, and I like to most nights get good quality sleep as much as I can. As long as I do those few things.
You're very good at consistency and routine.
But it's the way I'm most satisfied with myself.
It's the way you function as well, like properly.
I function the best. Yeah, I do. And like I literally, those few things is all I do. And like it means that like I can be successful in my day and weeks because I just do a few things. Monday to Saturday is my work week. Usually I try not to work on a Sunday. I don't care how long during the week. If it's like I'm currently doing New Frontier, so I'm on till like 9:30 at night. I'm in at like 7-8 in the morning. Now again, obviously I might block off and go make dinner or whatever, go training during the day, whatever, even during the work day. But again, I just, whatever way my work schedule is working, but work day is working, but whatever way my day is scheduled, is scheduled out. But for me anyway, for being personally satisfied, as long as I'm well rested, I'm working towards a goal that I feel like I've been challenged to, spend some time with loved ones, and I train a few times a week, I'm very happy. No, like that's one thing I do like very much admire in your structure. You're very good at structuring your week and sticking to routine. I love it. I am the best version of myself.
Yes,
like
when you do that, like I need to get more consistent in that.
But it's hard when you're traveling though, because you are traveling to go to work. You're in London on Monday, back and forth quickly. You were in the States a couple weeks ago. I think I've luxury like. I'm at best in Dublin or Limerick. I'm not in London or New York, or Miami or whatever. So
100%. Want to talk about just because like this is like a myth that like I've always gotten asked about is like, because like they're all like business owners just always work so much and everything like this, and like what I found is you kind of, the way business works is you build up this like momentum package of like working really really hard and consistent for years, and then this is how your time becomes more valuable in kind of later years. So you're building up like a momentum pack. I kind of like, let's say if I was to do a task today that would be taking me 5 hours 5 years ago, it might take me an hour now. I might only work an hour, for example, a Saturday, and that's my work. And like other people are like, how can you do that? Like have you this crazy system and Notion board and everything like this, trying to be like crazy organized, whatever helps you, by the way, to stay organized. But I think most people just get caught up in this myth of hustle culture, and me and you were in it for quite a bit, years. And like you give up so much of yourself to the business and call it the purpose, the mission. Like how I don't know how to measure if it's like effective or not, because it's clearly somewhat effective to throw a load of investment time into it, but we had no other choice either. Like it was like you just came out of Leaving Cert, you postponed the course. I don't know, I was working, and I just like there was no other choice to like not make it work. So you're like you've dedicated all your time into it. But I think your job then over time is to pull yourself out a little bit, and start to care and fill up anywhere that you haven't focused on time wise. What's the 4 P's Gareth always kind of focused on, the 4 F's: family, finances, fitness, and friends. And like imagine this like pie chart, and like how do you try to get not necessarily equally in each of them, but for whatever suits you, what your ideal pie chart looks like, kind of time into it,
but I think the game of business over time though, where it also leads in is like the skill is actually delegation, because as you get more experienced people around you, like you've done a really good job, like since you've bought me out of Grafton, you've done a very good job at leaning more on the management team that we had there and going,
you know the choice either, you kind of had to do it,
but they also look up the plate because they're all great players, so like that means that like, your 1 hour of like, and it's so interesting because it's so like the grey space of our job. Like a lot of jobs are like black and white. Like a scientist is like, do these experiments and figure it out.
And that's the output.
But us is like us brainstorming and come up with an idea that could revolutionize a whole new art, or even like come up problem solving for a huge problem your team can't solve. And I think that's the nature of us immersing ourselves so much in business at the start, and then now is that you see lots.
Yes.
So when you problem solve, when you're talking about your 30 minutes, you can go into a meeting, maybe not even prep. They present problems, you brainstorm. You solve the problems, they keep going. You now unlocked hundreds of hours of free flow,
yes,
and jobs and new work.
Yes, and this is where your value equation then completes. Of you get to charge more because you can do things probably faster, better, and potentially smarter than anyone else. You know, in your industry, in your field, or whatever. So, and like the next point I wanted to talk about, because like even like this week was like kind of like eye opener moment of like how building up expertise, getting that time right, and suddenly you're getting that price right, or you're getting your big contracts coming in the way, right?
Erik got a whale of a contract this week because the company, he has the right skills, a huge company needed his skills and landed an amazing contract.
Yes, and hopefully we get this every single week going forward. You know, that's my wish list for, you know, if you want to get me something for Christmas.
I'll ask Anton.
Thank you. Just a HubSpot full of leads. That's all I'm wishing for. That's one thing that this week related. But I want to talk about pricing, because like we've had a pricing journey of when you were cold calling and like randomly pulling out a figure to then us going into probably like hourly rates, to then us kind of going to each team member has to generate a certain amount of revenue, but just going to that whole, how did we build the price structure? And like I think you can comment very well on how we built it in the agency. You know, I know in Magnate you're still refining it and still trying to get that value equation fully there, so you're probably going to be charging more.
Totally.
You know, but I remember like this moment we were in our Clare Galway office, and I was very much afraid and I hated losing business all the time. What's the guy? Shax is always like, leave no money on the table. Was it not Shaq? No. Not 50 Cent. Oh my God. You know who I'm talking about. Rick
Ross.
Yes, Rick Ross. You leave no money on the table. I was very much always leave no money on the table from day one. And I remember
I was more like profitability focused. Like
always, you're always busting me first. But
you land a deal and I'm like, we're gonna lose money.
I'm like, Daragh, stop caring about that. Just let's just keep it moving. But I remember you kind of gone away and done this project with our web developers and everyone, and like came down and presented me of like, Erik, we're gonna do this slowly, but we're gonna be increasing our prices. I just remember I felt so like, I like dropped down. I was like, what do you mean? No one's gonna pay 2,000-3,000 for that. And I went into all quality protection mode and everything like this, and you were like, it's okay, let's just build this slowly but surely. We're gonna start tomorrow, but we gotta do this. And it was one of the best things that we've done to go forward, is to get a proper price for our services, and a growing price. We weren't just stuck in this package that we'll never get out of. You know, we were selling websites, and we sold the same website for $300 to somebody that probably made $1 million, same to somebody that's probably made 100,000. So there was no like differentiator in your customer, because we felt like we were shipping like a pre-made product, and it's like, no, there's a lot of skills and effort goes in, and each website is bigger than the other, and you're solving a different problem for a different sized business, and going into all that kind of pricing. But it's like the three types of pricing I've seen is like you price based on your experience, so that's like usually hourly pricing. So like electricians usually do this, trade people usually do this because they've worked so hard, they know how to solve it, it's a set problem, or they can troubleshoot it, and there's very little things that can go wrong. Hourly pricing works great in that instance. There's the whole impact based pricing. So like that was my this week, is I've priced on based on impact. that I could bring a solution, and they had a massive, quite a big hole in their system that they needed to get resolution fast. So obviously I'm going to be like, well, if I solve this problem, it's not going to be based on like a daily rate or something. I'm going to be pricing it on impact. So you kind of have to be very dynamic with how you price business, and like, obviously you're going into SaaS, so you're going to have to kind of create tiers of features that solve my pains in different ways, and it probably has, because like, certain things have a certain price point. Am I willing to pay X dollars a month to solve my task management, my multi-inbox management, all those kind of things adding up, and then suddenly you're kind of starting to circle around a figure a month that people are looking to actually pay, and you gotta, price penetrate that or whatever. But that was my whole kind of week this week, is just like really like diving into my input output, effort versus reward kind of cycle, and then the whole pricing infrastructure and how we got that from, because it just didn't just come from nothing. It's like, I was asked this week as well, is like, how do you price a job for a website? And I'm like, I had to go back a little bit of like, how do I actually price a job for a website? Because like I try to have both kind of stable pricing and then growth pricing. So when I'm in stable pricing, is I will take business for the sake of taking business to keep my cash flow going, keep my bills paid. But then I take growing business on top of that, right? Because that's kind of the agency game. Is I throw in an extra project that we probably shouldn't be able to do, but we're going to do it anyways. And we're suddenly in growth mode once again, each month. That's why agencies have quite a lot of monthly revenue, kind of lower profit margin at scale, because you keep having to hire more talent to solve the problem. So it's actually, I was talking to another agency owner on that this week, and they're sharing exactly the same problems and learnings at the moment of, oh my god, we're scaling multi six figures a month, and we're like, it's harder and harder to make money, so it's like we're trying to work out how do we become more of a profit machine, rather than just like every time I make $1 I spend $1.
Like I think there's a really interesting conversation I heard online before about like actually understanding your business's true challenge. So your challenge is not actually really like building an agency, it's recruitment. It's recruiting the best talent and training them.
Yes.
It's recruitment and training is actually your piece. Because if you do an excellent job, you've got customer service, you've got good tech delivery, you've got good strategists, then people will recommend you, and then your business will expand.
Yes.
Because the day that let's say this large client that you landed has a terrible experience. Now they're in a bad way, so they're a unique example. But let's say a long-term digitalization project. If they have a poor experience a couple of times, people don't answer them, someone's rude to them, they get a poor product, bang, contract's gone, doesn't matter what's going on. So you're getting, and that's your huge challenge. Never mind, let's say, how agencies will change over the next 5 to 10 years, and that's a whole other piece, which I was talking to an agency owner this week, and he said he's actually diversifying his businesses now because he's a very niche agency. He's not sure how the next 5 years are going to play out. So he's kind of hedging his bets across the board. Different conversation. We maybe come back to another day.
That's a good one.
But I thought the recruitment and training piece was really interesting. Is like finding out what your business's true challenge is. Like for me, it's definitely going to be the onboarding and like retention of customers. It's like, how do you make a platform so good? So that's a product. An
adaptation, like you're asking. So it's like people have been using the post office for decades, a century probably. And now you're asking them not to go to the post office, go to your shop to post mail, right? And it's like, how do you create that adaptation and do that whole change management?
Yeah, and like that's why I think I've really been studying the Revolut example, because they did such a flawless experience of people using your pillar banks here in Ireland, and they just yanked billions.
It's hurting the banks here in Ireland, big time.
No, it is, and they're real disruptors, and I think real disruptors should be studied, because they did so much from a sales and marketing to a product standpoint. It was just a flawless.
They've done it right.
Now they've also raised billions of euros, because the amount of money they pumped into sales and marketing is huge, and this is the nature of the game, that when you're in a B2C play. But I really think that finding your business's true challenge is really interesting, and yours is not necessarily what people would think it is.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. It is recruitment. It is recruitment
and training.
Because like
you bring a great talent in, and like I think you mentioned this last week, was like you can bring someone who's really experienced and a really high salary, but if your business and process
is not ready for it yet, it's just a waste. It's just a waste all in. So that was kind of my week this week.
Cool.
So it's a good week overall.
Yeah,
so,
no, I had a good week as well. I'm excited for next week with the shipping the new feature and expand the MVP trials, and it's getting me one step closer to.
Maybe we put a snippet in of Magnate next week
next
of
week,
how it works. What do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it. And again,
because Magnate can sponsor this podcast later on.
Yeah, I actually meant to wear my jumper, but I didn't have it. Right, so we've got our listener question. The Stig is back because we've only launched the podcast this week officially, so our Stig is back and we're going to have real listener questions next week, right?
Hey guys, big fan of the podcast. Daragh and Erik, you're doing a storming job. So, at the minute, I have a small business and I'm trying to collect data about the customers, but I don't know what to collect, how to collect it, and what metrics should I be following to keep the customers happy and keep them engaged. Thanks, guys.
Interesting question. And
it's complex. It's an in-depth question.
It really is. It's super niche. I know she have my couple of thoughts on it because I've listened to this already. You haven't actually listened to it. It was one that I'd heard with Brian Chesky, the CEO and founder of Airbnb. The initial people who onboarded Airbnb at the very start, they still have his personal phone number to today. And now again, maybe that's just pure BS. I don't know, but I like the concept of he's like, these people can still ring him up and he can talk to them, and they still actively talk to actual users on the platform, because it's very easy to get caught on next one, next person, next market, whatever.
You don't really care about your customer.
And actually making sure, and it's one thing I'm really cognizant of Magnate, is to make sure that when we onboard customers, I want them to stay. It shouldn't just be a churn game, because in the software landscape, you want people to stay because you're like, obviously your big metric in the SaaS game is customer acquisition cost and then lifetime value. That's your ultimate ratio, and the further it can be. So if you put in €1 to acquire a customer and they spend, let's say, 100 in their lifetime, a 1 to 100 ratio is unbelievable. So the longer you can keep them is great, and then this is your constant balance always. So one thing I think we really focus on is talking to your customers and having those tough conversations. I remember we started doing this with Grafton at one point, a really big initiative internally. We're going to do this. And I remember...
the customer retention role. You were landed in on that one.
And like bringing in customers that maybe didn't have the best experience with us early days. I remember like my stomach dropping talking to them. But definitely, like, once you remove the emotion out of it, which there can be emotion at times from their side, let's say they're not overly happy at the point, but actually talking to them and listening to them, there can be huge value out of that. Because again, if someone's paying you money, fantastic, but you want them to be a super customer, because it's all well and good someone paying your bill, but they actually might be damaging if they're paying your bill every month and they're constantly telling people that you're terrible and they shouldn't use you. You're losing so much
They're only
business.
using you because they have to. And like phone providers in Ireland, I think, are a big example. Everyone complains about the customer service in all the big phone companies.
Yeah.
So it's like, but people are using them because they have no other option.
Yeah, and I think
Maybe it's a space to disrupt.
Yeah, maybe.
For another year.
I've done 0 to 1 enough times. But I think with Magnate, like, I suppose on a customer satisfaction standpoint and a data standpoint from learning, we're having the back end like heat map and data that we're tracking so that we can see the usability, so we can refine that. And then we're also doing weekly user meetings so we can also talk to them. So we have this like 360 view of like how their actions are and why their words are, and then we're having a really good idea. I think that's really important, and even when we do publicly launch, I think it'll be really important for us to maintain that, because if we don't do that, I think it's very easy to go out of touch. I know I've been a user of platforms, I see them add features and I go, I would never recommend this. Like, clearly this is like some like echo chamber at a company where someone thought it was a great idea and never talked to customers. And I think Whoop's a really good example of like, we're constantly refining into the demographic and constantly adding features and making it better and better for the user that's really relevant. Whereas you're on other platforms and it's like, well, okay, this is no good, this is not evolved, and this feature is no good, I don't like it.
Yeah, and actually just to add to that, Zero is also like so good. I only discovered this, that they have like a feature by customers section on their website, so you can actually vote for a feature to actually get in to the platform, or you can debate it or give ideas. It's all like community based feature, shipping. I thought that was kind of cool.
That's really cool.
But like, The way I think you've covered very well, this question. I'd be just adding to it a little bit on like, how do you find your customers / potential customers, or like, it's like a lot of people are like very much like get stuck on like, how do I get my sales, or how do I get like that feedback, that survey pool, right? Because it doesn't really work like you go out on the streets and ask people, do you want to use Magnate, so I always say you kind of have to find out where your customer hangs out the most, or where you can really find them. And obviously easy things like going to networking events or going to some specific events, or like meeting some speakers or some people like that who can be product advocates in the future, who can actually hear your vision and kind of put it out there. But I think you just have to find where your customers hang out, and you kind of got to go there. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel type methodology.
Totally. And I suppose it's interesting that the programs I'm part of, they're really focused on like talk to customers, which is so good. Because like, I suppose the way I look at it is that if you really are fine and you have your small pool here, once you put the firepower, i.e. investment, i.e. cash capital back into sales and marketing, how to explain your product, what exactly the talking points are, and the ones that convert, because then that's the really part I'm excited about. But totally, you definitely want to put yourselves, like, let's say if you're looking at selling to restaurants, you go to the Restaurant Association of Ireland, you go to like, let's say certain meetups they have, and it's like it's trying to be tactical about where you go.
Find your customer.
Yeah. So like, I suppose for us, like obviously we're targeting agency, so I'll probably end up going to a lot of events, and the team will go to a lot of events. But I suppose current stage we're at is I want very intimate meetings. I want to talk to these people one-on-one. I want to
You're doing a lot of Zooms.
All day. I'm talking all day long, and it's really interesting because I record and transcribe all of them as well, so I have them all logged, and it really allows me then when I'm reviewing and going back, and with the help of AI it's able to actually just boil all that down way faster, is to boil that down to what are people saying, because this will also then have an added benefit, in my head anyways, of my sales and marketing. So there's certain ways they describe the product, certain ways that they
that's a great point.
So like I'm looking at a lot of these user meetings as learning for product, but also learning for
how am I going to pitch it. Because you really need to come up with a tagline. Your customer might come up with that tagline. I like that actually. So that's great.
That's what I've been doing. That's what we kind of double value out of the user meetings as well, and hence why I record all of them as well. So again, I think just talk to people, and I think really try and listen, because in those meetings it's very easy to try and talk. If you just ask questions and really sit there and listen. And there's this thing I heard recently which I really liked, is especially in MVP stages of the product, is go through those cringe moments. Like, sit down with a user and tell them to go use it, and sit there and cringe as they're
like your product is not working, or like error codes are coming up.
You're clicking the wrong place. You're not going the wrong flow. You're not. It's forced flows, and going through that experience. Because by going through that and feeling that pain makes you want to really
you make it quickly, because you're like, I'm about to lose this seat, paid seat a month.
So that would be my 2 cents anyway. So no, I think that was a good episode.
We'll put this on our Instagrams anyways to get some questions in in the future, and really appreciate the support of this anonymous individual helping us with the first few. That's
it's been exciting to launch, and I'm excited. We're currently recording this about 2 weeks in advance, so episode 2 is dropping Monday. We only got the edits through there, so I'm excited to get more and more eyeballs on this.
Said before, it is being built from scratch. Like, it's we're kind of in the warehouse of our office at the moment, and we're just kind of recording each week and just like getting started. So I don't think there's any shame in just like getting up there and getting going. So we'll improve quality and get a few things going. We're just in build mode and transformation mode at the moment across everything. So I'm excited.
I'm really excited, and again, this is a call out to people to do it, is to hear feedback and on the formatting.
100%.
Because we currently have no feedback because obviously we're a couple weeks in advance. So excited to hear feedback. Again, we're just trying to create something that we'd want to listen to, like 18, 19, 20-year-old Daragh and Erik would have liked to listen to.
Both document, learn, and like I suppose also like we're like having to think around having to think around what has been our week like, or what we want to say, or how we're gonna, because like really trying to link back the whole, we've experienced this and this is our learning from the week, and like sometimes they might sound like very, very easy learnings or whatever, but we're just I'm trying to bring transparency. I think you're trying to bring transparency to the whole space, and trying to talk about everything that people mightn't be wanting to hear, or they actually really, really want to hear. So I think that's the mission, and like I'm really excited doing this podcast. I think it's a great activity for us to sit down and have a chat, and then also on the side hopefully provide some value along the way for anybody that's looking to get into business. They're already in business in any kind of sort of sphere, and they can relate to some of our learnings.
Yeah, totally. And I think I think we both be very much people that like just keep going and don't ever really look back. I think it's it forces you to reflect.
Yeah.
I don't journal or anything. I've tried. I've stopped many times.
Did you journal?
I've tried, like maybe for a couple of days, and I've stopped. Because I do think there's value in it. I think there's apparently there's loads of value. I have never gotten into it, but this is my forced video.
Fair enough.
But no, anyway, that's another episode of Built from Scratch. Thank you very much for listening. As Erik would say, like, subscribe, give us a follow, share this with someone you think it would be valuable with, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week, Daragh.